Now in this second part, and these divisions are really quite arbitrary, I feel I'm ready to tackle the sky and the foreground. I've got a feel for the way the paper is taking the paint, the drying conditions and the speed with which I have to work. So that's given me enough confidence to tackle a larger area to make sure that it doesn't dry out, so that I don't want any hard edges or where I don't want them. I want the paint to flow. Let's have a little bit of alizarin. It's rather a lot. Alizarin was one of the colours I often buy as a pan, simply because just a damp brush over alizarin will give me a strong enough mixture. Oh, that's cobalt. What I've got here is cobalt, raw sienna and alizarin, and of course lots of water. So we'll start in the top left hand corner. A little bit of blue now, cobalt. That'll fuse with what we've got on the paper. Let's warm that wash up a bit with a little bit more, with a bit of light red. Let's have a little bit slightly lighter blue as you come down towards the horizon. Go straight over that sail there. Not much. So oh, that's rather a lot. I put a bit of cadmium red with that. Go straight over. We can go over that blue. Let's have one or two vertical strokes just to connect the top layers to the bottom layers, so that we don't have a series of long thin sausages. And then as you come down towards the horizon, long broad horizontal strokes will give a sense of space. Little flecks of white paper, I always think, sort of help lift the sky. Right over the distance there. Take up any little bits of additional moisture, and then go straight on. This is to the foreground. This is a bit of raw umber and cobalt violet. You can glaze that over these shadow areas. There's a plank of wood there. Now there's going to be some light grass there. We just put in that plank of wood, cadmium yellow, and a bit of raw sienna. Put that in so it merges. Tiny bit more cobalt violet. These horizontal areas of sand and gravel I think we often underestimate how light they are. Let's put a little bit of burnt sienna and cerulean just to get a change here. Big horizontal sweeps because this area lays flat. And all of this, whoops, that's not quite dry, but never mind. It's going to be a shadow there anyway. Now while that's drying, we can set about this hull here, which is a really dark blue. So I'm going to dig into Windsor Blue and Ultramarine. Paint from the outside edge to the inside. So do the drawing bit first. Do that carefully, but then you can quickly fill in the larger areas. Now as we work our way towards the right, it's going to get lighter, so let's put a bit of cerulean with that and start over here and work my way that towards the left. I think I could make that even stronger, so let's, while it's still wet, I can go back because it will fuse. Actually I've got a little bit of dark blue on the brush, so I can put that underneath there, and the same here, and then leave it. Now I think what we'll do is sort of work from the background to the foreground. Now cobalt and a little bit of burnt sienna will give me a sort of a bluey grey for the distance here on the other side of the river, and it's here as well. And then Viridian and raw umber, a bit more raw umber for the marsh. Now as that's the couple of little figures here, so paint around their heads, as it's the water's edge there, I must make sure I keep that nice and straight. A couple of little boats moored against the far bank, and same here, and of course that little bit of, make sure that that is consistent with that. Some neat raw umber just to straighten that, keep that nice and straight. Here really what I'm trying to do is draw out the shape of those boats. Now cadmium yellow and Viridian will give me a lighter green. Raw umber always, a bit of raw sienna will always help warm it up a bit for the sort of scrubby weeds and grass that were here, catching the sun. Treat things as a mass. We don't want any, not too many sort of spikes of grass. We'll come back and put some shadows on some of these later on, once it's dried. Ultramarine Windsor blue. We can do the dark of this. Let's put a little bit more Windsor blue with that to darken it, and the underneath here. But the top of it, of course, will be lighter. So let's go to some cerulean and cobalt. Probably not light enough as a contrast. And it's the same with the foresail here, and then that'll be a little bit darker, sort of wrapped around there. And then there's sort of furling, just a suggestion of the furling there. Some block there. Make it a bit darker. All forms with the underneath, where they're not getting any, won't obviously receive any light from the sky, so they'll be darker. In fact, the only source of light they'll get is some reflected light from the whatever's underneath them. And finally, let's just put in cadmium red and alizarin crimson. This sail here, nice bold colour, and it's a nice sort of stop for the viewer. Forces them back in. I feel it forces them back into the picture. Thicker paint. Just somebody unfurling their sails, and we'll just put in the suggestion of a little mast there. And some sort of gunnel along here for this boat. And two little marks here. And while let's just let that dry out for a moment. Now we'll just lay in a light wash for the distant creek. Now you'll notice that even though this is in the background, it's being painted quite late on in the picture. Just because something's in the distance doesn't mean to say that it has to be painted early on. It's a shape, and in fact in many ways it's a negative shape, but it's just as easy to paint it in between these shapes now as it is early on. A little bit of bluey grey there. Now I think we've got this to the stage where we can just let it all dry out nicely, and the final stage, part 3 if you like, is where we add a little bit more detail just to explain what's going on, but not so much that we start to get tight, because I'm still interested in making sure that it looks lively. But a few apparently deliberate but casual marks can enhance the interest in the painting. And people often say it's full of detail, and they don't realise, in fact, that they are supplying the detail from the suggestive little marks that you've made.